the most dramatic terror video. A terrorist's family drama on tape. A terrorist refusing to surrender despite his wife's desperate pleas. As they opened fire, both terrorists finally gunned down in Pulwama on the 9th of March. But local terror aides and separatist hawks clashing with the police and even hijacking CRPF vehicles. In Lucknow, terror politics breaking out over the Saifullah encounter.
सिस्टम के खिलाफ खड़े हो जाओ, सैफुल्लाह के साथ खड़े हो, आतिफ की मार हो रही है, आतिफ के साथ खड़े हो जाओ.
Isn't it time India stood up against terror?
There is enemy at the gates and there is the enemy within. But is our country geared up to deal with the threat? Our honorable lawmakers, you saw the empty benches in Rajya Sabha when there was this debate on Pakistan-sponsored terror. Is this how India will deal with Pakistan-sponsored terror? Rajiv Chandrasekhar, Member of Parliament, who had that bill, who withdrew that bill on Pakistan-sponsored terror and to declare Pakistan a terror state. He joins me on the broadcast this evening. I'm Gaurav Sawant. We have an action-packed edition of India First from the banks of River Gomti in Lucknow. Our top focus story will stun you. We are broadcasting from the banks of River Gomti in Lucknow, and barely a couple of kilometers from here, let me take you to that Haji colony. This is where an encounter took place barely 4 days ago, and in that encounter, one suspected Islamic State terrorist was killed. Politics on that subject is now taking center stage. Listen in to a cleric, an ulema council head. Is he inciting trouble? Is he inciting violence? And is this how India will combat terror? Take a look.
सिस्टम के खिलाफ खड़े हो जाओ, सैफुल्लाह के साथ खड़े हो, आतिफ की मार हो रही है, आतिफ के साथ खड़े हो जाओ. इन बेईमानों से लड़ने के लिए तैयार है कि नहीं तैयार है?
Playing the religion card over national security.
अगर नहीं आ सकते हो मेरा साथ दो.
Using slain terror suspect Saifullah to incite crowds.
पूरा इनकाउंटर फर्जी इनकाउंटर है. आरएसएस का जो एजेंडा हिंदू मुसलमान को आपस में इस भाईचारा को, देश की संस्कृति को तबाह करने के लिए, उसको अखिलेश यादव की मास्टरमाइंड इसके हैं.
Promising to take the Lucknow and Batla House encounters to their logical legal end.
मेरी एक मांग है, मैं अदालत जाऊंगा.
The National Ulema Council president now faces a police case for inciting the family of slain Lucknow terror suspect Saifullah. He claims that Saifullah's father was pressured into rejecting his son's body and calling him a traitor.
दबाव की वजह से उन्होंने ये बात कही. मुझसे अभी उन्होंने ये बात कही है.
The Lucknow encounter is fully political now.
जो वहाँ का एडीजी है, उन्होंने खुद अभी तक कहा है कि अभी तक ये वो सेल्फ रेडिकलाइज ग्रुप था और इनका कोई ऐसे से ताल्लुक.
I agree partly because I would want that terror must go. No, see, the problem is that it is still uncertain as to what is the actual position of Saifullah.
It's time our politicians learned that terror has no religion. The blood they spill doesn't either. Bureau Report, India Today.
The Uttar Pradesh police has now directed that an FIR be registered against this cleric. But that's not all. Was he lying and lying to an audience where he was inciting trouble? Why are we saying that? Because India Today has spoken to Sartaj Sahab. Sartaj is that slain self-styled terrorist's father, Saifullah's father, and Sartaj Sahab has told India Today there was no pressure on him. He stands by what he said. I quickly want to first listen in to what Sartaj said and then we'll go to India Today's Shiv Pujan Jha for more on that story. But let's quickly listen into that father who's actually a guiding light today. He says, if my son couldn't be a part of this country, he can't be mine. Let's listen into what the father had to say about the cleric's allegations. I'll tell you more.
हमारे ऊपर किसी का दबाव नहीं था और जो बयान मैंने अपने देशवासियों को दिया है उससे मैं संतुष्ट हूं और हमें अपने बयान से पीछे नहीं जाना है।
वो कह रहे थे कि फोन उनके पास कैसे आ गया, बात नहीं हुई है, पुलिस ने जबरदस्ती किया है।
उनके कहने से क्या होता है, वो तो जनता है, वो तो नेता लोग हैं, वो कुछ भी कहें। मामला हमारा था, मामला हमारे बेटे से संबंधित था। मैंने जो बयान दिया बहुत सोच समझ के दिया है और इसको देश में इसी बात का मैंने संदेश पहुंचाया है देश के लिए कि कम से कम लोग जागरूक हों, हमारे जैसे लोग हिम्मत करके आगे आए जिससे कि क्या कहते हैं आतंकवाद खत्म हो।
क्योंकि मेरे पास वहाँ से कॉल आई थी और लखनऊ से जो एसएसपी साहब हैं उन्होंने क्या कहते हैं नाम हमसे पूछा कि आप कौन है। हमने नहीं, हम उनके भाई बोल रहे हैं। तो उन्होंने सैफुल्ला का नाम बताया, हमसे पूछने लगे आप सैफुल्ला के भाई? हमने कहा हाँ भाई है मेरा छोटा। पुलिस ने देखिए अगर उनको दोषी पाया है, अगर उनके साथ अगर उनको ऐसी गतिविधियों में पाया, अगर उन्होंने किया ऐसा है तो उनकी पुलिस की मैं सराहना करता हूँ। तो सर जान तो रहे हैं कि सर एक तो हम लोग ऐसी डिस्टर्ब हैं, ऐसे लोग आके परेशान कर रहे हैं, पूछिए। पर मगर ऐसे आपके लोगों को ऐसे बीच में नहीं किसी को परेशान करना चाहिए। मौलाना आमिर से कहेंगे कि यही कहेंगे कि क्या है आप जब हम लोग के कुछ ऐसे बयान या ऐसे कोई बात नहीं थी तो आपको ऐसे अल्फाज नहीं यूज करने चाहिए थे, ऐसी बातें नहीं रहनी चाहिए थी।
India Today's Shiv Pujan Jha now joins me for more on this big story. Shiv Pujan, you heard the Muslim cleric where he was trying to incite the mob and in a very, very sensitive locality. On the other hand, there is the father, he lost his son. There is a brother who's saying, I know the police called me, I spoke to Saifullah, tried to get him on the right path and he didn't come on the right path. What the police did was right. Tell us more, what action is the Uttar Pradesh police planning against the cleric? And tell us more about how this brave father is standing by the truth.
Well, Gaurav, you see the big breaking news coming to us right at this crucial juncture while we are debating on this important issue is that the police have already lodged an FIR against the Maulana. Earlier in the day, the ADG Law and Order had given directives to the Kanpur police to to verify the audio and the video tapes of the statements made by Maulana. There was enough evidence with the police, and after analyzing all the evidence, now an FIR has already been lodged against the Maulana, and we are waiting what is going to be the next step of the police. Whether the concerned Maulana would be asked to leave Kanpur, whether he will be externed, that remains to be seen, but that is one possible step which the police may take. Now, the Maulana had already given a statement. He went to the house of the slain terrorist, met the father, tried to convince him that the community is with the father and that he should not bow down to any kind of pressure being exerted. Now, this was a kind of a statement which generated some sympathetic ego in the area, but not from the father. And that is possibly the reason why the father is earning the repute of a nationalist, a person who cannot side with the terrorists. Right now, the attempt of the UP police is to ensure that any person who is trying to foment any kind of trouble, they are kept at bay, and that is the reason why this FIR has been registered. Gaurav.
Not just kept at bay, strict legal and penal action should be taken against those who try and fish in troubled waters. Very clearly, one message has to go always and every time. It has to be India first. Shiv Pujan, keep tracking that story. I will come back to you for more. For the moment, many thanks. I now want to shift focus. You've seen how a brave father, he may have lost his son, but he is putting India first. But can we say the same about our honorable lawmakers, especially in Rajya Sabha, the House of Elders, on a day that Rajya Sabha was to debate Pakistan-sponsored terror? An independent member of Parliament, Rajiv Chandrasekhar's bill to declare Pakistan a terror state. Look at the images we are about to show you. Look at the empty benches and then appreciate the fact it was the same parliament in December 2001. It was hit by Pakistan-sponsored terror. Lots of statements were made at that point of time, but do our honorable lawmakers even care? Or is it only lip service to national security?
Salami dega! Salami!
Yet another martyr falls to Pakistan's terror treachery. India salutes Sepoy Deepak Jagannath Ghadge, soldier martyred in Poonch on Thursday during Pakistani firing. Scared of Pakistan. This even as Pakistan's global isolation is nearly complete. Even after a United States lawmaker has moved a bill pushing the Trump government to declare Pakistan a state sponsor of terror. An untrustworthy ally that aided and abetted the United States' enemies for years, from harboring Osama bin Laden to its cozy relationship with the Haqqani network. The Indian government says it cannot support a private member's bill to declare Pakistan a terror state. What stops India from adopting a firm stand against Pakistan?
To a man, every MP today spoke in favor of the bill. They spoke in favor of the sentiment of the bill, and they spoke about the need for India to be more determined and more tough about how to deal with Pakistan, rather than keep wringing our hands and wishing for peace.
जो प्राइवेट मेंबर बिल होता है उसमें कई ऐसे प्रावधान होते हैं जिन पे चर्चा होती है और उसमें सपोर्ट और न सपोर्ट करने का सवाल नहीं होता. सरकार ने उस चीज को नोट किया है जो उन्होंने कहा है.
बातें उन्होंने जो कही थी उसमें बहुत सी बातें सही थी. पाकिस्तान बाज नहीं आ रहा है, आतंक बढ़ाता जा रहा है देश में. ये सारी बातें सही होने के बावजूद भी इस निर्णय को लेते समय काफ़ी अध्ययन करना पड़ेगा.
Six months after India's surgical strikes on terror camps in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, sending out a tough message to the world, India cannot be seen as going soft on terror headquarters in Pakistan.
The government has taken note of this bill, but it says it cannot support this bill at this point of time. A group or an organization can be declared as a terrorist group or an organization, but to call Pakistan a terrorist state at this point of time would be inappropriate. However, the government is working out other ways and means to ensure that Pakistan does not push in terrorism on the Indian soil. With camera person Shakil Ahmed, Akhtar Khan in Delhi for India Today.
Member of Parliament Rajiv Chandrasekhar joins me on the broadcast. Mr. Chandrasekhar, are you disappointed you had to withdraw this bill to declare Pakistan a terror state?
No, I'm not disappointed at all. If you recall, right after the Uri attack, I had said I would introduce a bill like this. The whole idea of the bill was primarily to start a debate in Parliament, to get people in Parliament for the first time since 1994 start to talk about Pakistan as a sponsor of terrorism, and hopefully have people around the country debate it as well. And I think I have succeeded on both those counts. It would, obviously the ideal situation would have been for the bill to be passed, but we all know, including you and I, that there was very little chance for that to happen in its current form without it being actually piloted by the government.
But Mr. Chandrasekhar, isn't this ironical on a day that Ted Poe, Texas congressman in the United States, wants US to declare Pakistan a terror state? In India, we, the biggest victims of Pakistan-sponsored terror, have to withdraw such a bill because the government does not push it through.
No, I think if you want to ask me what is disappointing, I think what is clearly disappointing, if you want to call it that, is that there were not more MPs present in Parliament when this bill was being debated. Terrorism, as you and I both know, and most people in the country know, is really one of the biggest existential threats that India faces and the Indians face. And the disappointment is that there wasn't a larger group of people in Parliament when this was debated. Because if Pakistan had seen a larger group of parliamentarians present when these 8 or 9 MPs did speak in support of the bill and did speak in support of a tougher, more determined approach towards Pakistan, perhaps the message would have been stronger than the message that has gone out today.
Oh, absolutely, sir. And isn't it ironical Parliament, that same hallowed temple of democracy, was hit by Pakistan-sponsored terror, Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed in December 2001. Our honorable lawmakers pay lip service to those who made the supreme sacrifice of their lives every year, but in Parliament they were not there to debate Pakistan-sponsored terror. What needs to be done now, Mr. Chandrasekhar?
No, Gaurav, I think part of the problem is that I think while there is no dispute amongst parliamentarians and indeed Indians that we need to take a different approach to Pakistan and we need to declare Pakistan a terror state and that Pakistan is indeed a sponsor of terrorism, I think there is no dispute on that. As you saw today, the MPs across the board support the bill and say that Pakistan is indeed a terror state. But I think parliamentarians and a large number of Indians have not yet come to terms with the fact that we can do a lot more than peaceful candle marches on one end of the spectrum and or military strikes on the other end of the spectrum. I think there is a need for a larger, more deeper debate and a sense of awareness and confidence that has to creep into members of parliament and Indians, that there is a lot of other options that India has as an economic power to coerce Pakistan, to pressure Pakistan. Apart from diplomacy, military and the candlelight marches, there's a lot more that we can do. And that aspect, I think, requires a bit of sinking in to the psyches and a sense of confidence to be developed within the lawmakers and indeed some people in some citizens of India.
Oh, absolutely. In the United States, the lawmakers want the president to sign off on whether Pakistan has taken tangible and credible steps against the Haqqani network or Al-Qaeda before US taxpayers' money is given to Pakistan, a state sponsor of terror. In India, is a similar parliamentary oversight on government engagement with Pakistan required, sir? Because we cannot have one day, you go hug them and the other day there is a surgical strike. Somewhere down the line, there needs to be a debated national policy on dealing with Pakistan. How will that come about, sir?
No, I think, Gaurav, let's be clear that we have made some pretty significant first steps with this bill and this debate and the overall media and the debate amongst normal people around the country. We've made a big beginning, but I think there is a need for that beginning to be consolidated, that first step to be consolidated with a growing confidence amongst regular Indians and indeed parliamentarians that we can do something. I mean, there was one member of parliament who today stood up in parliament and said there is no utility of declaring Pakistan a terror state, or is there a utility? He questioned. There was a rhetorical question about, is there a utility of declaring Pakistan a terror state? So I think in some sense,
clearly India needs to be on one page to deal with Pakistan-sponsored terror. Political differences have to be sunk so that India speaks in one voice, and not just speaks, takes steps, takes credible, tangible steps against Pakistan-sponsored terror. Why are we saying that? Because let me now take you to Jammu and Kashmir. How Pakistan is playing a big role in misguiding, in indoctrinating people in Pakistan. So much so that one terrorist, despite his wife telling him to give up arms, he continues to fight. The wife brings out their little child and says, come back, give up arms for this child. And why is she doing that? Because the army does not want to kill local terrorists. The army wants the local terrorists to come forward, surrender and join the mainstream. But are terrorists scared of other terrorists killing them if they come over ground? Many aspects here, and this is something that India needs to realize to take on Pakistan-sponsored terror. Take a look at what happened in Jammu and Kashmir.
Please surrender. A wife's desperate plea to her husband, piercing the uneasy calm. Her frantic efforts to save his life, asking him to give up arms. But he refuses to listen. Amidst the Pulwama encounter that ended on Thursday afternoon, It was the army's last-ditch effort to avoid bloodshed in the valley, rushing in a terrorist's wife to persuade him to surrender. Paying no heed to this humane approach, Shafiq Sher Gujri opened fire on the security forces while holed up inside a house, leaving our braves no option but to kill the local LED terrorist.
After ascertaining the identity of two Lashkar militants holed up in house in Pulwama, senior police officers brought their relatives from their native villages to pursue these holed up militants to surrender. Even the wife and child of Shafi was also brought in to pursue him, but he rejected all the offers and was killed with another Lashkar militant in encounter.